I have logged into my local computer. I'm using a user called admin. This is just a generic, simple user. There's a couple of things I want you to look at. Admin at Solaris. This is my user. This is the computer. The S $ stands for a standard user, if you want to look at it that way. Basically, a generic user here. And then the tilde, this here squiggly line, really what it stands for is the equivalent to showing you where the home user's directory is, or I should say the user's home directory. In other words, it is admin is the user. He also has a home directory and is shown by the tilde. If I type in PWD, which stands for Print Working Directory, even though I a lot of times call it Personal Working Directory or whatever you want to look at, if I type in PWD and press enter, it tells you where admin's home folder is. In other words, it's in a folder off of root called export/home. Those are the export is the folder, a subfolder, a subdirectory is /home, and inside is another subdirectory subfolder called admin. In addition to the pwd command, which is your print working directory, it showed me I'm in export home admin. That's the folder. That's where I am. But I want to find out some more information about what's inside the admin folder. Let's type in dir. dir, DOS type command, shows me there is something called desktop, there's something called downloads, there's something called mysitename.key, web, documents, mysitename.crt, and public. I don't know if these are files or these are folders. Well, I could sort of guess. Document, downloads, desktop, public, probably could be directories. I don't know if web is. I could guess at that. My site name.key, well, it's using a .key extension, so that could probably be a file of some sort. And my site name.crt is probably a file. Let's try something a little different. Let's go ls. ls stands for list. Press enter. Well, it shows me the same files, but just different order. Let's clear the screen. CLEAR. Now, let's type in ls-l. Now, because I have a large font and a small screen, things are going to automatically wrap. So if I press enter, it gives me a whole information. And basically, and I'm just going to go through these as best as it can be. What it starts off with the letter D here, it is a directory. So therefore, and if I look at the extreme right, it says desk, and then the top continues on the second line here. So desk top, we know, is D for directory. The word document on the right is the name of the folder or directory. And documents, because it's the letter D, there I should get a better D on it, it is a directory here. My site name.crt, as I said earlier, with the extension .crt, has a dash before it. Therefore, it is a file. My site name key has nothing as a dash. Therefore, it is a file. Public, I guessed right, it is a directory. And web, I didn't know anything, so I guessed, and it's also a directory here. So when I do ls-l, it lists all the directories, or lists not only all directories, but it lists files. Let me clear my screen again. Let's type in ls-a. What does this do? Well, -a, guess, stands for all. And it lists everything inside my admin home folder, which normally I may not be able to see. Anything with a dot before it indicates a hidden type of file. But you'll notice there's desktop, there's documents, there's downloads, my site name key, public, and the web. But it also shows a bunch of these other files that are in there here. Now, a lot of these are profile folders. A lot of these are things that a user could create. When you start off your very basic installation here and you don't have any graphic, you haven't done any lot of uploading or downloading the stuff, you are not going to have a lot of these files. And you'll see that this person has access files, by the way. It shows you that they've tried this. It's been doing something with key rings. There's a cache file here. GNOME is the desktop. ICE Authority basically deals with user permissions to log in properly here. GNOME is a graphic program. GIMP is, no, not GNOME. GIMP is a graphic program here. And then this configuration files. Let's clear the screen again. Now I did ls-a. What happens if I go ls list space dash al? Oops. al. And I press enter. It gives me this humongous long list of files. Now, it really shows up so much on my desktop here. It's just scroll down here that I really have a problem scrolling things through. So let me clear my screen and let's show you an interesting little command here. If I go ls, that means a list dash al are the options. I'm going to list all the files inside with the information. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to type in the concept called pipe. Pipe is basically straight up and down line. On my keyboard, it is on the right, extreme right hand side just above the enter key. And if I type in more right afterwards and I press enter, what it does is it only shows enough information on the page that will fit. In other words, you'll notice it shows the dot file at the right hand side, then the dot file, who owns it, then it's .bash. So all these dot files are hidden files through the whole system. All right, they could be directories, they could be demonstration files, it could be just normal files here, it could be links to something else here. Because I have more, if I hit the space bar, it moves everything up one line at a time, or one space at a time, or whatever you need to do. By hitting the space bar or hitting the arrow key, I can move up and down these things. Now, please understand that the easiest way to do this is to hit the space bar. I don't like that. So let's try this command. ls list dash al. In other words, it's going to give a long listing of everything, of all. And then I give it an extension or a pipe parameter. I put in the pipe. The pipe on my computer is a key just above the enter key on the right hand side. And then I type in the word more. And if I press enter, what happens? It gives me the listing of all the files. In other words, it starts with all the dot, and then alphabetically the .bash, the .cache, the .configurations, the DB bus rings, etc., etc., etc. here. It only will show me information enough to fit on the screen. Notice it says .f here. If I want to see more, I just basically press the space bar. And then you notice it jumps font, which was at the bottom, now is at the top, and it continues on to the .g's, the .I, the .j. If I want to see more information, I just press spacebar again. And it continues on the next page. Press spacebar again. It gives me more information here. And by the way, now you start seeing the folders, desktop documents, downloads, my site that I had beforehand. And then finally, if I press more one more time, it goes to the end. And more disappears if it's unable to show anything more. So let's just quickly review. I gave you the pwd command. You had the cd command. No, you didn't. We haven't done cd yet. But we have in class done cd command here. We did the dir command. We did the ls with a bunch of switches. And then what we did is ls piping more. Let me clear the screen. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work inside the admin directory, and we're going to create a new directory here. To create a new directory inside admin, I go mkdir, make a directory. I type in space. I'm going to call this stuff, S-T-U-F-F, and I press enter. Doesn't give me any message. Let's do ls. And sure as shooting, there is stuff. It created a folder stuff. I'm going to change directory to stuff. I go cd space stuff. Now you got to be very careful. Remember, Unix, Linux, case sensitive. Capital S is capital S. Capital lowercase s is lowercase s. The two are completely different entities. In Windows, it interchanges capital S with lowercase s. It doesn't really matter. In Unix, it does matter. cd stuff, change directory. I'm in the folder called stuff. Let me go ls. Nothing happens. The reason being, there's nothing inside of the folder called stuff. Let's create a new directory inside stuff. We're going to call this stuff1. I'm going to go mkdir space, and I'm going to call this stuff1, number 1. I press enter. Doesn't give me any messages. Let's do ls. There it is. Shows me there is a folder called stuff1. If I want to go ls-l and press enter, it gives me a long listing. It tells me it's a directory, the date it was created, etc., etc., etc. I'm inside stuff here. I am going to clear my screen, and let me create a file inside stuff. Now there's many editing programs, but I like using the one called Nano, N-A-N-O, and press enter. Nano opens up a new program. So I'm going to create a bunch of information, or create a list. I'm going to call, let's go apple, banana. You know what? I'm going to put, I'm really making a spelling mistake. Just to do a quick little check. We're going to play with this a little later on. Let's do orange. Let's do cockroach. That's not a fruit here. We'll call it a wombat. And let's do wonton. I'm going to go Control X to exit. Control X. It gives me a message saying, do you want to save the files? I say Y for yes. And then it tells me what file you want to write. Okay? And I'm going to call this things. I press enter. Let's go ls right now, and let's look inside stuff. Oh, there is stuff1, which is the directory, and there is a file called things. Let's go into the stuff1 folder. cd to change directory, space, and I type in stuff1, capital S, T-U-F-F-1. Press enter. Now you'll notice I am inside the home directory of admin in a folder called stuff, inside a folder, and underneath that, or within another folder called stuff1. The $sign says I'm a normal user. If I go ls here, it doesn't show me anything, mainly because of the fact that there's nothing there. So let me put a file in here called nano. Opens up a brand new text editing folder, and let's call this okay, we're going to put wolf, not dead but alive people. Let's see now, what else should I put? Oh, tomato. Now you could decide whether tomato and potato should have O's at the end or E's. I'm not going to get involved with that thing here. Let's do corn. Let's do pineapple. Let's save this. Control X. Yes, I want to save it. Y. And I'm going to call this different things. And I press enter. Now, you'll notice if I go ls, different things shows up as different space things. That is really something I should not do. You should not do that because it gives a false message to people viewing this thinking, oh, there is a file called different and there's a file called things. Uh, Only if you do ls-l, you really get to see the fact that different things is one word. Now, when we access this later on, we'll see what some of the problems are. I'm now going to create another folder. I'm inside stuff one. I'm going to go make dir, and I am going to create a folder called stuff2. Capital STUFF2. I press enter. And if I go ls, I now have file called different things, and then we have a folder called stuff2. I'm going to change directory to stuff2. CD space capital STUFF2. So now I look at it and I say, all right, I am now in admin, home folder, which is the tilde. I'm in a subfolder called stuff, and then there's another subfolder called stuff1, and then there's another subfolder called stuff2. What's in there? Type in ls. Nothing. Let me clear my screen again. So there's nothing inside stuff2. So let's go nano. It opens up the editing program, and we're going to create another file with some other stuff in here. Let's call this apple pie. We'll call this banana. Banana pie. I don't know whether that's spelled right at all or not. Let's call the next one here blueberry. I'm going to have to learn to spell. Pie. Let's put in, let's see, no, I did a wolf. More non-dead but living people. And let's see, no, cockroach wolf. Who knows? Something else, but I can't remember what it is. I go Control X to edit the program. Yes. And the file to write. I'm going to put in more things, but this time there's no space between more things. Please understand, when you open up Nano and you write a file, you create it, it saves to the location you are currently in, unless you put in a special path to put it someplace else. Press enter. So let's see what we have here now. ls, I now have a file called more things. If I go ls-l, there's more things. Now that we've created a whole series of subdirectories and subdirectories, and we put files inside subdirectories, let's play around with finding out what's in my folders. In other words, what are in the files? And we want to do a quick search. Now, granted, because we've only created these folders, we know what's in them basically just by guess and by gosh. However, there are times you're going to sit in a network and sit down and say, I want to find out where things are. So whether it be a word, whether it be numbers, whether it be a combination, whatever set of parameters, or whatever string of information that you look for. So let's move back. Now I showed you make directory, so we're going to do CD now, change directory. CD space dot dot. Oops, got to click inside the box. Now we've been inside stuff and stuff1 and stuff2, and we've created a whole bunch of files and subdirectories and so forth. Put words inside these files here. There are times when you are doing administration work on a network and you want to find something. grep is a really good command to find words, syntax, or certain parameters that you're looking for. So let's change this, right? Let's go back a little bit. I'm going to go cd space dot dot. CD stands for change directory, dot dot, go back one space or one directory. In other words, right now we're in stuff 2. CD space dot dot takes me back to stuff 1. CD space dot dot takes me back to stuff. CD space dot dot takes me back to the admin folder. If I type in pwd, it tells me that's where I am. Export home folder called admin. Let's search for something. We type in the command grep, G-R-E-P, space. Dash I means an indiscriminate. In other words, it'll look for capital letters or lowercase letters. It doesn't worry about the font size. Space. Dash N gives me a number. In other words, whatever word I'm looking for in that file will tell me what line number it is here. And I'm going to search for the word apple, because I know apple I put in there. Apple. And I'm going to put in a star for me looking at all text files in that folder. Or at least I think it is. If I put star right now, I press enter, watch what happens. Nothing. The command is good, otherwise it'll give me a command error. But what it said grep, look for the word apple, could be capital or lowercase letters, listed in the line numbers -n, and look in all the files. Well, what it does is it just looks at the files inside my admin desktop. It did not go into any other subdirectory like desktop documents. In other words, technically all it really looked at was my site name with the CRT and the key. All the rest of those were directories. It didn't go anywhere. Let's jump into stuff. So I'm going to change directory. CD space STUFF. Now I'm inside the stuff directory. Let's look at the files inside stuff. Now let me just quickly start off with ls. Right? So there's stuff 1, which is a folder. Forget it. But now there is a file called things. So if I type in grep -I, oh, by the way, I'm just going to put an N afterwards because it's going to be -N. So this with -IN, it works the same way. I'm going to look for the word apple, and I'm going to say, look in all files. Not file directories, but files. And I press enter. And it says, wait a minute, in the folder called things, line 1 is the word apple. Fantastic. Okay, give me the information here. Now the question now comes into this is, what grep command do I have to put in order to be able to search lower subfolders? Well, we tried this in class, and there was a couple of things. We tried the -R and so forth, and I'll give you this example. It's grep, and I go -R, -R, or I'll use a capital R. In a lot of places, it means recursive. And I'm going to go apple, star. And I press enter. And it tells me it's an illegal option. In other words, it doesn't like R. The only ones that it does like here when you use grep is -C, -L, -Q, -B, -H, -I, -N, or -N, -C, -V, W, and whatever the pattern file is here. In other words, there's the command. All these are options. And the pattern file is the word called apple. And the ... over here tells me to look whatever the file name is here. So basically, grep is good, but it only works at one directory at a time. I've just cleared my screen, and I changed the directory back to my home folder for admin. pwd, there I am. If I go ls, I know all the files that I've worked with are inside the stuff folder. So I'm going to move up one more directory to stuff. CD space STUFF. There we are. I'm going to go clear the screen just to give myself some more working space here. Now, in class, we were talking about the concept of grep. All right. Grep only works at a certain time or a certain way. What if we use the term find to look more deeper into it? Okay, here I am sitting inside stuff. I know the files that I've created are inside stuff, stuff 1, stuff 2. I've used grep, and as long as I am inside the directory, grep works really good. There is another command. It's called find. If you type in this command, find space period, what this means is that inside the current directory, in other words, stuff, and everything else inside stuff, in other words, everything in the directory that stuff has plus subdirectories, it's going to look. I want to then add a second command called execute, or exe space. And then I'm going to type in the word grep. I'm going to put in -n because you want a number line, right? The number of the line. And inside quotations, single quotations, I'm putting the word apple. Now I know there's apple in 3 files inside subfolders. I want to put in the braces, the open brace, the closed brace. For simplistically put, the braces are just going to be something that is going to be able to expand the word apple, all right? Or it's going to focus around the word apple, and then with that, I also put in a plus sign. In other words, it could add more information. So if I press enter right now, if I'm going find dot, and the dot means the folder stuff and everything underneath it, and then I'm going to execute grep, and I'm going to go -n, give me the numbers, and then it's going to show apple, and it is going to give me that info. The braces and the plus sign is going to allow me to get words that have either apple in it or apple plus a phrase. So if I press enter, this is what I get. It looked and it said, and again, here it is. In the current folder stuff, there is a file called things, and on the first line is the word apple. Okay? Then in the folder called Stuff 1, and then in a subfolder called Stuff 2, there is More Things is the file name, and in it the first line is apple pie. And what's really interesting here is that it shows that in Stuff, then the folder Stuff 1, there is a file different space things. Line 6 is the word pineapple. What I find interesting is the fact is that it did this Stuff 1, Stuff 2, more things before it did Stuff 1 or displayed Stuff 1 different things. And the only thing that I can come across right now looking at this is because there was a space, it just looked at different, not sure about it while it was processing, it then did the process of this. Okay? So now what we did is this. Now there is a little bit more involved with the find. I'm going to try doing the exact same thing. There's find, there's the dot, and I'm going to put in space -name. All right. Now the concept, what's really interesting, is the name -name is supposed to list the file. But when I did this find dot to the exec, it gave me the names of the files and the folders that were in there. Let's see by doing the -name what does the difference is. So I got to the plus sign here. Oh, I made a mistake. There it is. And I press enter now, and it gives me the bad option grep. In other words, it didn't like this here, this -name here, it didn't like it. Let's do that again. There's find, and I press enter again and again. So this -name exe, it just doesn't like this. So what if I do this now? I'm going to add something to this. After the -name, I'm going to put in single quotations, the asterisk, which should, oops, the asterisk, which should be a wildcard, quotation, space. Now, look at what happens now. I'm going to press enter, and there it is. What's really interesting is when I typed find period, and then I went to exec, it gave me the exact same information as in this. What the -name really means is it's telling me to look for a name inside the quotations. The star is not a symbol, but it is a wildcard. Let's try something. I'm going to go CD. Oops, got to be CD ... I'm going to my home directory. I'm going to go clear. Now watch what happens. If I type in the same file, find in this directory. Now again, remember, I moved up to the admin home folder. So this has got all these other things. Let's clear this back. And let's do this, just to check. I'm in PWD. That's where I am. LS gives me all that information here. If I go LS-A, it gives me all the hidden folders and everything else. All right? Let me clear my screen again here. Now let's try this. If I type in the word find space dot space dash name, okay, single quote, star, which means wildcard or anything, close quote, single quote, space dash exec, space grep, grep, space dash n, space single quote, the word apple, another single quote to end, space, open brace, close brace, or first brace, second brace, and then plus. What do you think is going to happen? Well, let's guess. First of all, A is going to find all the company names, or all the folders, directories, and the files that when it runs executionable command grep, is going to list the lines and anything that is comprised of the word apple. Remember in the previous screen, what we did is when we did apple, we got apple pie, we got pineapple. In other words, as long as there was apple inside of it, it gave us the information. Let's look at this whole page. You'll notice there is a lot of information that kicked through here. Actually, it looked in almost every file. It looked in almost every folder, looking for anything that has the word apple. Let's clear the screen again. This time, I'm going to pipe more at the end. So after the plus sign, I go more. So in other words, I've got find, space dot, space dash name, space, single quote, star, single quote, space dash exec, space grep, space dash n, space, single quote, the word apple, close quote, space, start brace, close brace, first brace, second brace, whatever you want to call it, the plus sign, space, pipe more. And I press enter. Watch what happens. Because it is more, it gives me just enough page information on this page. And if you look through this stuff, you will see the word. Oh, here's the word called Applebee's. Applebee Gifts, one word here. Then it's supportapple.com. Okay? Then it says APPLE, Apple. www.apple.com. And it continues on with all these files. And you can always look at it. You see the word Apple in there. If I press spacebar, it gives me a new page. All right? And again, I'm seeing Apple. All right? Depending upon what the lines are and so forth. Right? Now remember, because my page and the font is large enough, it's wrapping the lines. So you'll see anything, the line starts with the dot slash, and it ends with this, with probably a chevron to the right. So as I'm heading more, it's refreshing the page here. And by the way, I've headed at least 7 or 8 times right now here, and you're seeing lots of stuff into here. And all this stuff is relation to Apple printing. The page is resetting itself as I'm going through here, or refreshing itself here. And then you could probably find the word Apple in a lot of places. Right? And basically there were web pages in here that I had beforehand for something else, which deal with Apple printing and so forth. So you can see how powerful this tool is, right? And by the words, it will also find the word applet right here on the screen at the bottom paragraph here. It says .-.gconfd, the configuration file, and it has the word applets, A-P-P-L-E, which is Apple. And again, if I continue on here, you can see more information on this stuff here. And then finally it goes to stuff, apple, pineapple, and apple pie. So using a command like find in conjunction with grep can get you a lot of information, and then piping it to more or sending it to a text file here gives you the availability to view this however you want to view this, whenever you want to view this. Find and grep, going hand in hand, are very, very powerful tools to be able to find information on your server.